We're here as a surprise tonight. Welcome to a special edition of the Idaho Sheriff broadcast with Dan Wilson for Kootenai County Sheriff. As always, we are here to discuss all things liberty without compromise. I'm your co-host, Dawna Wilson. Many of you had concerns about illegal immigration and illegal immigrants right here in Kootenai County. Part of a sheriff's duty to secure the county is to cooperate with ICE to deport illegals, and that's part of the ICE 287G program. While Bob Norris only recently declared his intention to be part of this program, Dan Wilson, as usual, was ahead of the Norris curve months ago when he questioned Bob Norris back in May as to why he wasn't already a part of ICE 287G. Now here's Dan Wilson to walk us through some very interesting audio and video of both Bob Norris and then Dan, in his own words, back in May of this year.
Hey folks, thanks so much for joining us on this special edition of the Idaho Sheriff. Yes, we're going to talk about immigration and how it relates to Kootenai County, Idaho. Now, many of you have continued to voice your concerns to me about all the illegals that you are seeing here locally, where Bob Norris has continually said, no, they're just here working on visas. There's nothing to be concerned about. We get weekly updates of videos and photos sent to me specifically showing where all of these buses are arriving in the Kootenai County area, offloading a bunch of men who are going into stores in the middle of the day to get staples. Look, I've lived in this region my entire life, 5 decades, and I've never witnessed the amount of activity by all these foreign nationals that are here currently. So we know that it's happening, but as per typical, Bob Norris is asleep at the wheel. And I've been accused often of just throwing mud. And in reality, I'm often sounding the alarm way ahead of Bob because Bob does not seem to have the foresight, the vision that a sheriff needs in order to secure his county, to look at the dangers on the horizon and to act accordingly. Now, we're going to talk about this ICE program 287G. And in May of this year, several months ago, we're going on what, by math, 4 months ago? Mm-hmm. I asked this very question on one of my very first live question and answers. And I asked Bob, why aren't you part of this ICE 287G program, which is extremely easy to be involved with? I'm going to let us play that clip from just a few short months ago where I specifically asked Bob this question.
Right before I play that clip, I do want to let you know you can go ahead and put your comments in the comment section. We aren't going to be answering questions tonight.
We're going to be
going through this topic, but we'll share this.
These individuals right here in Kootenai County. But remember, through all this, Bob, when you weren't concerned about the immigration issue and you told those feds that you weren't going to provide a task force member, well, why weren't you part of the ICE 287G program? I said it, Bob, ICE 287G. And I think that people might want to look that up because it is where ICE, in essence, allows certain deputies to go through a process where they can help deport people out of the area when law enforcement encounters them. And there's 2 prongs to it. So look, Bob, you are so far behind the curve and you are not going to mislead the people just the way you did with your.
Okay. So really what I was saying is I was taking the boots to Bob saying, if you're so on top of this illegal invasion, why aren't you part of the 287G program? I'm going to pull up right now.
And again, that was back in
May 7th. You can go back to the May 7th live broadcast where I discuss this. Now, I'm going to show you the website right now, the ICE website off of the U.S. Immigrations and Custom Enforcement. We talk about what this 287G, so you can see specifically what it is. ICE 287G program, the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996. Folks, this is almost 30 years ago, added Section 287G to the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, authorizing U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, to delegate to state and local law enforcement officers the authority to perform specified immigration officer functions under the agency's direction and oversight. The 287G program enhances the safety and the security of our nation's communities by allowing ICE enforcement and removal operations to partner with state and local law enforcement agencies to identify and remove incarcerated criminal non-citizens who are amenable to removal from U.S. before they are released into the community. ICE recognizes the importance of its relationships with its law enforcement partners to carry out its critical mission. The 287G program allows ICE, through the delegation of specified immigration officer duties, to enhance collaboration with the state and local law enforcement partners to protect the homeland through the arrest and removal of non-citizens who undermine the safety of our nation's communities and the integrity of U.S. immigration laws. Now, I'm almost done. 287G program models come in basically two different modes. The first one, the jail enforcement model, is designed to identify and process removable non-citizens with criminal or pending criminal charges who are arrested by state or local law enforcement agencies. And number two, the warrant service officer program allows ICE to train, certify, and authorize state and local law enforcement officers to serve and execute administrative warrants on non-citizens in their agency's jail. It goes on to tell how you can become part of this program. It's pretty easy. And then here's where I came up with my first understanding that Kootenai County was not a part of this. If you look at, we're going to scroll down a little bit longer, and if you pull that back up, mutually signed agreements by state. If you go down all the way to Idaho, there's only two agencies, two sheriff's office that participate in this: Gooding County Sheriff's Office and Power County Sheriff's Office. And both of those organizations started up in 2020. So we know that Kootenai County is not included on that. Now, once again, this has been around for 30 years. Bob calls himself a law and order candidate, a law and order sheriff. And he wants you to believe that he really has your best interest when it comes to protecting us from the illegal invasion. In fact, he often says, well, there's nothing he can really do. He does cooperate with Border Patrol. Later on, we're going to hear him in his own words say that, he cooperates with ICE. And what brought all this about? Well, last week, which is around August 22nd, a paper came out. It was an article by the Center for Immigration Studies, who had FOIA'd information from ICE. And in this FOIA information, they had determined that Kootenai County was one of three counties in the state of Idaho that were non-cooperative with ICE. Now, there's a lot of back and forth from the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office denying that. Theo Wold, who broke this article story from CIS, was pretty emphatic about, hey, this is data that was obtained from ICE. It's not been altered. It's not the opinion of CIS. It came from ICE. And so there was a town hall where Theo Wold, who was a former Solicitor General of Idaho and a policy advisor for domestic policies for President Trump, I believe, for 3 years, a very, very smart man, was joined on a Live X program on, I believe it was Friday the 23rd. And Bob was kind enough to jump on and listen to about the last 20 minutes and participate in some question and answers. We're going to play this clip here very shortly, but back to my overall criticism of Bob Norris and why he's not fit to be sheriff when it comes to immigration. Bob has never been to the border. Dawna and I went down to the unsecure Arizona border back in January, and we saw firsthand hundreds of military-aged males from Africa and the Middle East that were on the U.S. soil at these NGO camps and walking down the wall in U.S. territory. No Border Patrol, no law enforcement, no National Guard. We've taken this video that we obtained and we've made it available for you on the idahosheriff.com. Look, I've been saying since I started running this race, part of the reason that I got into the sheriff's race is because I knew that once Biden was sworn into office, that we were going to have a flood of these invaders into our country. We know that the FBI has finally admitted that there are just under 200 of the terrorists that are on the terrorist watch list that are in the country. They don't know where they are. And if only a fraction of the tens of millions that have entered into this country, if only a fraction of those are bad actors, terrorists waiting to happen, they are in our midst. They are absolutely here. And Bob has done nothing to be proactive other than he claims that he cooperates with Border Patrol and with ICE. And ICE came back later on and they said, yes, that report was in error and Kootenai County is in compliance with ICE, which was a good thing. But there's nothing more that Bob does. He doesn't do anything proactive to help us mitigate this problem right here in Kootenai County. So let's listen to what the discussion that was had on that X Live event Friday the 23rd.
Does Kootenai have two 87Gs? Do we have that?
Well, I was just going to ask that, Lauren. I mean, not currently. I can send you the link on the document. So ICE, as I said earlier, keeps a list of existing 287G agreements. And, there are 2 counties listed in Idaho as having those agreements currently on the books. And that's Power County and Gooding County. So I guess the question I just have for you, Sheriff, hopefully all of this is remediated and solved with the response you'll get from the section chief or the Seattle regional office. But then taking a step beyond that, would you consider and sort of obligate Kootenai County, as we were discussing before you joined, it's probably a joint decision between you and the commissioners in your legal counsel, but will you enter into a 287G agreement with ICE authorities so that your local law enforcement agents can be deputized and then use full federal authorities for apprehensions and removals?
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
That's great news.
That would be no question.
So
That's
convincing.
That's
so
great.
convincing.
And one follow-up to that, will you
100%.
also appeal to the Idaho Association of County Sheriffs and ask them to universally endorse this 287G and encourage all of your fellow sheriffs to get on board and do that? This is an overwhelmingly popular position of the people of Idaho. And as the highest constitutional authority in the county, will you do that? Will you take that step to the Association of Sheriffs and make sure that they are endorsing this policy as well?
100% I will. And we'll be meeting very, very soon. And I have no doubt that we as a joint body would support this 100%.
I see Matt Edwards just jumped up. Did you want to?
Okay. I'm so convinced, I don't know about you, but I'm so convinced that Norris has been aware of 287G for a very long time. He was just waiting for the right opportunity when it was at the most optimum, what would you call it? Optimum time for him to announce that he's going to come in and swoop in and save us all with this 287G process.
It was suddenly in his purview.
Yeah. You sound real convincing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
So you have a guy who continually touts 30 years of law enforcement experience in the largest sheriff's office in the entire country, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. He was a lieutenant. In fact, he claims over and over again that he handled assets, his own words, like FBI, like CIA. He had top clearances. He handled U.S. attorney assets, and he trained with Mossad and Shin Bet. So how is it that somebody of his background and expertise doesn't have Kootenai County already involved in this program that would make Kootenai County a much more undesirable place for illegals to operate here in Kootenai County?
Well, I'll tell you what he said. Another thing to kind of get himself off the hook.
100%.
Well, 100%, absolutely. But he said that he was told by the agents that Kootenai County, or that he is already so cooperative, that it really hasn't been necessary. Yeah. That was an answer.
So you have a guy that's 30 years that doesn't have, in 4 years, when he knew the border was going to be wide open. And here's one other thing that I was going to say earlier and I forgot. When you look at the foreign nationals that are in detention or have been in detention in the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office, something that people should pay attention to, and you can look at that list and get it offline, but the arrest of foreign nationals happened by Post Falls Police and the Coeur d'Alene Police Department in Kootenai County. Strangely absent from these arrests are the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office and the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Police. So, Bob, we don't buy it. You should have been on this a long time ago. It took a dumb, inexperienced reserve officer, the one that's spreading misinformation like you continually say every time I bring up a point to where I'm taking you to task. Well, I owned you again, Bob, because I was asking this question 4 months ago. You just found out about it the other night when you were at the fair, by the way, running around with your drop leg holster and your badge and your body camera. So you're not going to get away with this. And another thing that you are completely ignorant about, and that is on the status of illegals here in this country. Now, we're going to pull up an article from the Coeur d'Alene Press, January 25th of 2024. That's this year. And in this article, where you were being covered by the press for one of your famous Coffee with Your Sheriff events, you know, those great events that you hold early morning where all the working stiffs can't come because they're all working, so it's all gray hairs and your 12 support deputies and all your sycophant followers. Well, what you said in this article, and I'm just going to read one or two sentences, and then we're going to show you where you are wrong. As a constitutional sheriff, you really don't know what you're saying, and people hold him accountable for this. But he said, once they touch soil, he's talking about immigrants here, invaders. Once they touch soil here in the U.S., they have all the rights of a U.S. citizen. Bob, that is not true. In fact, that's one of the most ignorant things I have ever heard you say, and I've heard a lot. So here's where the reality of that statement is. And I know, Bob, that you're probably, because you don't study the Constitution, you don't pay attention to Supreme Court rulings or any of the circuit judges. You know, the Fifth Circuit Court just 2 days ago ruled on this. And I'm going to pull this up on my final slide as we get ready to wrap up this special edition. But this is a ruling by the Fifth Court of Appeals, Fifth Circuit. It's U.S. versus Jose Paz Medina Cantal. And it was arguing this very fact as to whether or not somebody that comes here illegally is actually awarded the same rights as a U.S. citizen. So we go to the very last page here, because this is where the crux of it is. And in this ruling, it says illegal aliens don't qualify under the definition of the people set forth in Verdugo, Uquerdes, and Heller, not as a matter of common sense or court precedent. As to common sense, an illegal alien does not become part of a national community by unlawfully entering into it, and more than a thief becomes an owner, no more than a thief becomes an owner of property by stealing it. So the fact of the matter is, Bob, that no, illegals do not have the same rights as American citizens do. So in conclusion, hold Bob Norris accountable for his incompetency. And every time he comes out and he says that misinformation is being spread, that's code for he's covering his behind, because he knows that the facts and the statements that I have brought to the table are in fact things that he should have been doing. And he shouldn't have been waiting for a reserve officer with not 30 years of command experience to tell him how to do his job. I do have a vision for the citizens of this county to be secure in their person, places, and effect, to secure their rights to life, liberty, and property. And I absolutely will take care of this county in ways far better than anything that Bob Norris can do. So I look forward to talking with you guys more about this topic. Just had to come on, make this video. We didn't want to let this slip away where everybody else is mesmerized by the new crisis of the week. So thank you very much for joining in. God bless you all. May God bless America, and God bless Kootenai County.
Thank you for listening to this special edition of the Idaho Sheriff broadcast with Dan Wilson for Kootenai County Sheriff. Remember, for the Idaho Sheriff podcast, you can listen and subscribe wherever you get your shows. For more information, visit our website at theidahosheriff.com.